Hey guys, and welcome to another devlog video. For this week I wanted to do something a little different. I have been making progress with ABK, continue to add multiplayer, but I don't really have anything specific to show you guys, and it was getting a little frustrating. So what I decided was that I wanted to take a little break, and last night I worked on a little side project that I've been kind of keeping in the back burner here. Just like I started with the modular road tool, which eventually became the tool I just released a couple of weeks ago. So I wanted to give you guys a quick preview of what it is, get your opinion. A lot of the big projects start with this, tinkering with different ideas, and some get discarded, and some obviously can be developed further. So well, today I want to show you two blueprints. One is a procedural building blueprint, and this is, you can see here, the buildings. It's a super simple blueprint, and I'm gonna drag this guy right here on the, there you go, in the middle here. And what you'll see is as I'm moving the blueprint, it automatically chooses a random floor number, and it goes through different materials. If you look at the blueprint here, I have it selected. You can specify the number of floors. In this case, it's 19. Let me just specify like 3. Oops, not 11. There you go. 3. Just to show you what I mean. And then you can specify a base, which is just a mesh. Let me show you real quick. And I did this super quickly in Blender. I don't even think I UV mapped it properly, which is probably why you're not gonna see it look very nice. But that isn't the point. I just wanted to prove that I could do this. And then I have a level mesh, you can see here. And then you have a roof, which is this little mesh here. So 3 basic meshes: a base, which is always going to be the first floor, any regular level, and then a roof. And all this does is it stacks based on the number of floors, right? So it builds the base, it builds the amount of floors from the levels, and then it adds a roof at the end. And then, so I can make something like 10 floors, and you can see that automatically just makes it 10 floors. And the neat thing is, because I made this in Blender, these are buildings that you can actually go in. So these are fully enterable buildings. Obviously there are no doors or anything, but the way I build the mesh, there's a little staircase here, and this is just a regular building. You can see that there's obviously a lot of work as far as aligning the meshes properly, but again, this was meant to be a super quick and dirty project here. And you can see here that I am now at the roof of the building. So this basically, based on the meshes, produces a enterable building, and you can specify the number of floors, and there's a material list, and you can specify which material you want. But the cool thing is, obviously, is that you can randomize the floors by setting a maximum number of floors. In this case is 40, and you can randomize the material. So as I'm moving this around, you can see that the material is changing, and the number of floors changes as well, right? So obviously, I don't know how many, how many floors. This is 28 floors, up to a maximum of 40, and I can obviously go crazy with that. If I wanted to, I could say something like, I don't know, 100 floors maybe. Maybe the Empire State building here, right? If I wanted to hit play, this is what it would look like for the scale of the Unreal mannequin. Absolutely insane. Obviously, I think you can go up to floor 102, so that gives you kind of an idea of the scale. Let me just go ahead and click random. And go back to something more sane. But that's obviously super simple, right? You could take this way farther by adding all kinds of different models and materials, and you can populate the buildings with props inside. So this is something that I did, maybe in an hour or two. It's super simple. It's just a proof of concept. But the interesting thing is that I wanted to see if I could build a more procedural city, right? So my original idea was to make a traffic system, right? I still think it's a really good idea for a project, maybe next after ABK. But I always had issues finding a tool that gave you the roads you needed, right? And if I'm ever going to make that project, I need to ship with roads that look decent and then I can actually code with, right? So I need to have the road have the spline in a certain way so I can then program the cars to follow the roads, right? So this is more of a experiment. Hey, if I wanted to create a little city, can I just drag and drop some buildings and then just by spawning them in different areas, they will randomly choose a number of floors in the material. And eventually, if I wanted to make this even more, then instead of just one mesh, then I can have an array of different meshes, right? So you could have different bases, different levels, and different rooftops, all that work together in a very modular way. And then at that point, you could have a lot of variety of buildings, right? So that's one idea. But the real cool thing is, let me just open this map here. What I worked on last night, based on a comment from one of the frequent forum goers, I saw a thread about somebody asking about procedural city generators, right? And I've had this idea in the back of my mind, and I said, hey, I have the roads now, and I don't think I need to work on it anymore. I have this super simple prototype of a procedural building, which means every time I spawn it, it'll have a different size and material. So all I would need to do, obviously, at least for a very simple proof of concept, was detect the roads and spawn buildings along the roads, right? And that effectively, you could build a very, very simple city doing that. And that's what I worked on last night. Obviously, just I want to preface this is super, super early. There's a bunch of issues. If I ever wanted to make this, obviously, something really nice, it would require, this is like a real project, right? It's not something that you can get done in hour or so. So let me just show you what I got here. So I got this little blueprint that I created yesterday called City Generator. And you pick how many roads you wanted to look at. In this case, it's an array of roads. I have all of the roads in this level, 9 different roads, and all of the roads are just simple two-way roads from one end to the map to the other. Then you have a building list, and this is the class that it will spawn. And in this case, I only have one class, the procedural building class. But again, you could make dozens of variations of the procedural buildings, right? Every single class could have different meshes, different materials, different parameters as far as max floors, etc. Doesn't have to be buildings, obviously. It can be houses, parks, whatever. Basically, this is the actor that you're going to spawn, and in this case, I just have one. Then I have 2 other floats here. Building buffer. What is the distance between each building that you're going to spawn along the road? And road buffer. What is the distance between the road and the building that you're going to respect? You don't want to spawn it too close to the road, right? You may want to have a sidewalk. And then whether you want to spawn buildings on the right side of the road or the left side of the road. And this is just a debug for spawning. So I've selected all of the roads. I have just one class, and I'm just going to go ahead and run this utility. Boom. And what you can see here is a little city that's been auto-generated by grabbing every single road, calculating the box extent for each building, spawning the building, and then walking through the spline, and then having the little building buffer. And as you can see here, super unoptimized. I'm getting like 30 frames per second because all of these are individual actors. But you can see here that this is a very simple mock city. You can barely see here. And I've made my pawn be super fast just so I can traverse this really quickly here. Oh. And obviously all of these buildings can be entered, and you can go up any of these floors. I'm not gonna go all the way up to this building because it has like 30 or 40 floors, but you get the idea. So I've had this idea before of creating a procedural city generator. I've loved procedural generation, and I haven't, really looked into it too much. So right now, I kind of like what I've got here with the amount of work that I put in. This can definitely be expanded. You can see, obviously, I only have one set of roads going parallel. What happens when you have roads that are crossing, right? So I have to have some sort of more advanced detection so the buildings don't overlap. There are some issues if the roads are curved. The buildings will follow the curve of the road, but then you have to play around with the buffer. So there's a ton of work if you wanted to make something like this very flexible. But if you just wanted to create a little New York type city landscape, right, downtown type landscape, you could do something like this fairly simple, and then you can optimize. So yeah, I wanted to show you guys kind of what I've been working on as a side little project. The question is this something you guys are interested in? I'm right now wrapping up ABK, so I'm thinking that by the end of August I should be done. I'm hoping. I'm very, very close to being feature complete, and then I have to just kind of clean up the code and submit. Right now, I have two main ideas for next projects after ABK. One is a traffic system using my road tool, or now, which I'm kind of liking where this is going, perhaps a procedural city generator, where you would lay down your road network, specify the specific buildings, and of course you can expand it, like you can have separate zones that you can specify with volumes, commercial, residential, industrial, whatever, rural, right? And then based on those areas you can spawn separate buildings with different characteristics. Point is, you could really expand this idea quite a bit. Is this something you guys are interested in, or would you rather have a traffic system? Let me know what you think. I'm really interested. Again, this is super rough, but I got this working last night as a little side project, and I wanted to share it with you guys today. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Thanks a lot.